You know, folks, the whole world is talking about Bitcoin. Want to know why? Maybe it's because Bitcoin rose in value over 150% last year, and this is just the beginning. Bitcoin is online investing that anyone can do. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org today. Take a master class. Download the Book of Bitcoin and take your investment portfolio to the next level. Visit bitcoinuniversity.org and discover all that a Bitcoin can do for you. That's bitcoinuniversity.org, bitcoinuniversity.org.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby.
And here in Camelot. Well, Robert Kennedy won.
Yes, boy, did he. He has now been named as the Secretary of Health and Human Services by President-elect Donald Trump. This is a biggie.
Does that mean somebody lost?
It does. It means probably a couple people lost, by the way, because there were a lot of people in the running for this one, John, too. And this is a huge one, guys. RFK Jr. Think about this moment as we have Governor David Paterson, Ed Cox, of course, Judge Richard Weinberg. John, what an amazing moment. A Democrat Kennedy is now in the cabinet. He's, of course, has to go through nominations and all that, but still.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, of course. That's right. Tulsi Gabbard, too.
Another Democrat.
In the
administration.
Yep, and she'll be in town.
Although she has turned Republican.
Yes, she turned Republican.
She turned Republican.
That's right.
Yes.
But does that mean that Trump is trying to put Democrats and Republicans together?
For HHS, maybe it's appropriate.
Yeah, it's an and listen, he's certainly a guy who cares about clean water, clean food,
about health,
preservatives, getting rid of them.
Healthy. He's going to make America healthy again.
That's right.
A lot of controversy on
Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm shocked.
Shocked.
There's gambling in Vegas.
There's gambling in this place. Well, what do we do? I mean, there's senators, both Republican and Democrats, and Republicans saying no way.
And there's a report about to come out against him from the ethics committee that's now started. This is a drama going on.
The truth is, I have no clue.
Yeah, it's going to be, and listen, Kevin McCarthy, the former Speaker of the House, who obviously butted heads a lot with Gaetz.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. The tweets today, like on social media, have been like, Matt Gaetz, oh, my goodness. And they're pointing to this ethics committee. But then, listen, President Trump got elected. He can pick who he wants to pick.
The report doesn't come out now because he's no longer a member of Commerce.
That's
How
right.
about that?
That's right. He resigned last night.
He resigned, so they're no longer jurisdiction. The report can't come out under the rules of Congress.
You know, Judge Weinberg, I'm curious, how does this work with all these recess appointments? Well, we're going to talk with Andy McCarthy later, too, about it. But this is a fascinating legal issue.
It's a very interesting point because the fact of the matter is there's a recess appointment. It can last the end of the session. Does that mean that he gets a full year in it? And will the Senate really give up its prerogatives to do advice and consent over cabinet appointees? You know, it's a very interesting thing. I don't know. If I was in the Senate, I wouldn't give up that power.
Yeah, we'll have to see where it goes because that is a fascinating point. And the timing of all these appointments, could he stay as acting? You know, maybe in an acting role, even if he couldn't be confirmed.
And it's going to be very interesting because you're going to find that they've given an issue to the Democrats to fundraise and to campaign against. I think this was a bad nomination. I think it's caused a lot of problems, and it may cause problems between the House and the Senate. Because is there a confidentiality for that House report? The answer is yes. But does the Senate have a right to have that information when it looks at the character and fitness of the person for office? The answer is yes. And how do you balance those two things?
You mean something might leak in Washington? Wow, I can't imagine that.
No, never.
Governor Patterson.
I agree with Judge Weinberg because, you know, I think the
problem... Oh, wait a minute. Do you have to agree with him? His head is going to get big. He's going to want agents and representatives.
Well, he's sitting by the door. Maybe he can get out before
Okay,
his head is...
Okay, all right.
Now, Judge Weinberg wanted it warmer in here. Somebody else wanted it colder. Did we settle on a number?
Yeah, the number was whatever you wanted.
No, wait. There's got to be. I believe in
Good
compromise.
Answer.
Well, now Greg Kelly is here. He puts it down to 57 degrees. I mean, you could freeze your nipples off.
No comment. No comment.
Okay.
No comment over here.
Can we go back to substance? Governor Patterson was agreeing with me. I want to know what he's agreeing with.
Yes. And
the governor had a comment.
See, I think one of the problems that we have right now in this country is we've allowed ourselves to become so loyal to our political affiliations that we can't address a situation that is crying out for an answer. And so I think President Trump, obviously, he's the president. He should make the appointments. But when you make an appointment, I mean, how far do you have to go before there's going to be a reaction? And in this case, I think he went way too far.
Well, and listen, he got a mandate, Ed Cox. I mean, he won the popular vote. We know now the House, the Senate clearly, obviously won the electoral.
After all the lawfare, people in the Department of Justice is shaking in their boots because of that appointment.
Yeah, they are definitely shaking in their boots. Also, by the way, Nikki Haley coming out today, you guys, to other news, claiming that she turned down, quote, a truce offer from a Trump ally who came to her and said, hey, is there something you'd want to do? And she said, no, I'm okay. How do you read that, Judge Weinberg?
Well, the question is, when was this conversation? Was it before or after President-elect Trump said, I'm not going to appoint Pompeo, I'm not going to appoint Haley to my cabinet, I thank them for their previous service? Why he had to say that is totally beyond me. I would have just said to myself, I'm not going to appoint them, keep my own counsel, and not appoint them. Why does he have to humiliate them?
Your thoughts, Ed Cox?
I pass.
I passed earlier, so that's fair.
We're going to set a record here.
From the Democratic side, left side of Ed Cox, we have Governor Patterson.
I'm sitting on his left, but many times I agree with him. But I think this is the second time tonight that Judge Weinberg has said something I agree with, because this whole issue of appointments, right now he's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court, and he is the executive branch. I would think that there are better things that he could do than some of the things he's done. He has appointed some very good people, but the last 48 hours has been trying for a lot of people.
Well, let me try this one, because there's a report out that thousands of ICE officers, those are the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers, they're going to be reassigned from desk jobs because President-elect Trump is vowing to flood sanctuary cities with agents, putting them to work. And especially, John, one of your points was getting rid first of these convicted migrant criminals, the ones who have been convicted of serious crimes like murder and sex offense.
If they're criminals, if they're murderers in their own country, if they're drug dealers, get them the heck out of New York. Get them out of the United States.
I agree.
What are we waiting for?
Right. I mean, I can't wait to see the fight of the mayors or the governors who are saying, I don't want this guy with the rap sheet of 3 convicted serious crimes.
Did you hear what you just said? This is the problem with the Biden-Harris administration did to this country. There are people who got in here from countries, and you're not going to get the rap sheets.
Right.
So when they're arrested, being prosecuted, there's no rap sheet before the judge who's sitting there knowing who this guy really is.
Although where I take issue with that is there are at least, the administration has already come out, and essentially there are about 400,000 according to DHS. Right now, 15,000 about convicted murderers and 15,000 sex offenders. They don't know exactly where they are, but they do know that there is at least some history, which, you know what, makes you wonder how many more that they don't know about.
No. And there are people walking around where you're not going to get the criminal records from their home countries.
Yeah, they're not cooperating.
And home countries, you think Iran is cooperating? You think China is cooperating? You think Venezuela is cooperating? Please.
Well, I'll start with the first 15,000 convicted murderers, and then let's move on to the sex offenders. Get them the heck out of here, Ed Cox.
That's going to be one hell of a fight. There'll be litigation by the far left and this and that over it, and Trump will be showing he's going to get them out of this country.
And now let's go to the great Bill O'Reilly, who is joining us here on Katz and Cosby, of course, mega best-selling author and also host of Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly every night here. Bill, this announcement just came down about the ICE officers, that the plan is to take them off the desk, put them on the streets. You want to talk about Trump's strategy. Take it away.
In sanctuary cities, to clean up the sanctuary cities.
Okay, but they have to have probable cause, number one, and it takes a while. Everybody overreacts to these kinds of things, and I know a lot of it's show and things like that, and I'm not opposed to putting more federal agents in the sanctuary cities to arrest people who shouldn't be here. Absolutely, that has to be done. But in order to arrest them, you have to have probable cause.
Well, I agree, but you mistook what I said. If a person went to Times Square and killed a person, or let's go less than killed, harmed a United States citizen or harmed a tourist, and purposely did it, then the person should be deported in 5 minutes.
Well, wouldn't you rather have them serve 25 years in penitentiary?
No, send them back to Venezuela.
To what? To do whatever they want? I don't know. I'd rather see
I'm with Bill O'Reilly. As far as I'm concerned, you do the crime, you do the time, then you get deported.
I wish Joe Arpaio was back, because that was hard crime. Hard time.
No, I can't believe this. This is 3 times now.
Oh, no. David Patterson's agreeing with us.
I agree with what Judge Weinberg just said.
Keep them here in this country. But,
and not only that, but you don't
wait a second. Think of the cost of keeping them here.
That's my
Let's get
issue.
them out.
How much does it cost to keep a migrant here 20 years in jail?
Per year, it's
a lot.
$20,000, $30,000 more.
It actually costs less than giving them the death penalty.
You know why? Because of all the appeals with the death penalty. That's exactly
but it's cheaper
why.
than putting them in the Roosevelt Hotel.
What's wrong with paying lawyers?
Yeah. But Bill, in the issue, to John's point about probable cause, if there are convictions, which they believe there are at least 15,000 about of each, you already have the probable cause if there are actual convictions that they know of and can identify. And it is going to be, the other thing, Bill, too, it's going to be a fight, as we're talking about with these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. I mean, already the governor of Massachusetts says, don't come in. Governor of Illinois says, you got to go through me.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, if I'm President Trump, this is a huge issue for me, right? So here's what I do. If there's an outstanding warrant on a foreign national, that person is deported, and the ICE agents catch them, they're deported immediately. If there's an outstanding federal warrant in Boston, and the governor of Massachusetts says, we're not going to cooperate with the federal officers to find this person, I cut off every single penny of federal money going into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And you can do that by executive order. I starve them. And that would be applauded by 99% of those who voted for Donald Trump. If California and Los Angeles just announced yesterday that they're going to have a vote to be a sanctuary city, put it in writing, not one dime of federal money goes to L.A. See how you like that?
Yeah,
and that's what I would absolutely do by executive order, and you can do that in a heartbeat. So let me give you guys some breaking news. Yesterday, I was on one of the competition for WABC, Sean Hannity's program, and we talked about Kate's Law, which in 2015 I had up at the highest levels of the Senate to be voted on, and Mitch McConnell killed it, would not put it up for a vote because he didn't want a punk like O'Reilly making law. You can reconstitute that law. What's Kate's Law? So in 2015, 32-year-old Kate Steinle is walking with her father in the Embarcadero of San Francisco and was shot dead by a migrant who had been deported 5 times, returned 6 times. Guy had 7 felony convictions. That is happening to this day. This guy wasn't unique, okay? So the Kate's Law would say if you're deported and you come back to the United States, you get 10 years mandatory federal penitentiary. You don't have to commit another crime. You step onto our soil after you've been deported. you get 10 years.
I like that.
That would stop all of this cold, all of it. Nobody, no gang member, no criminal, no one who's been deported would come back facing a 10-year mandatory prison sentence.
If you do it twice, you give them 20 years.
Well, they're not going to do it twice.
No, the other one, but mandatory.
We're now looking, and Katzimatidis, you might be able to help me with this. We're looking for a Senate sponsor to bring this bill up again because Thune will get it through, and Trump told me personally he would sign it. And not only is the bill a protector for American citizens, but it exposes politicians in the Senate and House who might vote against it. As you just said, the American people need to know who is subverting their safety. This is a simple bill, maybe 2 pages long, and it could be done within 3 weeks of Trump being inaugurated. But we need to get a Senate sponsor and then a House sponsor as well and get it rolling. And, you know, I'm here. I'm ready to go with my vast array of media exposure. Hannity says he's going to cooperate, so let's get it done.
Wow. By the way, Bill, I remember covering this. That's
how about mandatory, what we've been saying here for 2 weeks, mandatory jail sentence for intentionally committing voter fraud?
Well, let's get this done first.
Yeah.
You're getting into states.
Why don't you add it to the bill?
There we go.
Look, when you're getting into voter fraud, then you get into a states versus federal constitutional argument. It'll take forever.
No, if it's a federal election, maybe now. Who knows?
No. The states can run their own elections, and they would have to adjudicate fraud within their borders. So it's complicated. I want to break one more story on Katz and Cosby. Do we have time?
Yeah, go ahead. Real quick, go ahead.
Okay. So Kathy Hochul announced that she's trying to ram through congestion pricing by January. Do you know why she's doing that? Because Lee Zeldin, her opponent, was appointed to run the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. The first thing Zeldin's going to do when he gets into that office in January is stop New York City congestion pricing so the feds can study the environmental impact. That's the first thing he's going to do. Hochul's trying to beat him to the border here. Now, what's environmental impact? Why would the feds want to look at it? Because the cars are going to shift to Harlem, to Queens, to all these, and they're going to park and stop there and then take mass transit in to avoid the onerous taxation.
And they're going to charge. They're going to charge the first time $9, and 20 minutes later they're going to go back to 15.
Look, but this is why you need journalists in this country. Nobody knows what I just told you. Hochul's not saying that. And they don't know why Hochul suddenly is trying to ram this through so fast. Now, she's not going to get it through. There's going to be federal lawsuits, state lawsuits, all kinds of lawsuits to hold it. But that's why she did it.
Well, that's great to know that timing. And by the way, coming up after you, we're talking to Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis, so we're going to talk with her. Bill, you're terrific. And by the way, I remember when you were covering all the Kate Steinle stuff. I'm so happy that you're staying on that. You did such great work there, and we'll try to do whatever we can to help get that pushed through too. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Okay, guys, I appreciate it.
Bill, thank you. Great stuff always, Bill. Thank you very much. Let's go to Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis. Congresswoman, did you just hear what Bill was just reporting here on the show? That she's trying, the governor is trying to push this through because Lee Zeldin's going to do whatever he can to stop it on day one, and it's not that far away, his day one.
Look, I absolutely. I've spoken with both President Donald Trump as well as Lee Zeldin regarding congestion. They, as I see it, as a death knell for the city's economy, for businesses, for residents, and this is nothing more than a cash grab that won't do anything to alleviate traffic congestion or the pollution. It'll just shift it around to the outer boroughs and outside of the zone. And they want to stop it. But the best thing is, right, listen to this. Kathy Hochul talks about having a great conversation with President Trump last week in which the president made, expressed a desire to help New York City, to help our transit system, to make it beautiful and reliable again. And here she goes poking him in the eye, trying to jam this through before he gets in, knowing that he's opposed to it. I mean, is that smart?
And Nicole, what you're really saying is it's a tax, simple a tax. It's not. It has nothing to do with congestion. Congestion is just going to go to another place. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. It's a cash grab, and it's not well thought out, this plan, because, like I said, it's going to shift traffic to the outer boroughs, to mostly minority communities, by the way, that already have pollution and issues. So we're suing, right? We have this lawsuit. Borough President Vito Fossella, myself, the UFT, Federation of Teachers, we're suing, saying that they violated just what Bill O'Reilly said. They violated federal NEPA law, environmental law, by not requiring a full and thorough environmental impact statement. There have been programs of less significance, less impact, that have had to go through that NEPA process, and yet here comes the Biden administration rubber stamping this thing, no environmental study. We don't know the full effects of the pollution. We know that it'll shift it, but we don't know to what extent it will hurt these outer borough communities. And I think the Trump administration has the ability to come in and say, we're going to halt this, even if they put the program in effect for a few weeks. We're going to halt this, and we're going to order an environmental study, and that effectively will kill it.
Did you see, by the way, Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis said Trump came out, his statement is, to Ed and your point, he said it's the most aggressive tax known to womankind after Governor Hochul came out with it.
Well, and you know what? He's right. And this is the thing. The president has already said he wants to help New York City. He wants to help deliver funding from the federal level to support New York. And yet here's the governor trying to poke him in the eye and doing something that he said he's very much opposed to and doesn't want to take place. The other thing I'll point out is Governor Hochul will be saving $5 billion. The city and the state will be saving $5 billion because the president's going to end this mass illegal migration that has drained all this money from the taxpayers. So why can't they put that $5 billion now toward towards the transit system to fix it? New York has a $240 billion budget. It's $100 billion more than when I was there. In the last decade, they've grown the budget by $100 billion in this state. And it's twice the size, the budget of Florida, where Florida has millions of more residents. And yet you're telling me they can't find $1 billion a year to fix the transit system, one thing that people actually pay taxes for, transportation and infrastructure? That is ludicrous.
It's like, how much was the Verrazano Bridge when they first put it up and it was supposed to go, the toll was supposed to go away when it was paid for? How much was it? 25 cents, 50 cents?
Well, yeah, it was something not $20. I'll tell you that.
Well, it used to be 50 cents, and it went to $20. So she's going to charge now $9, and 20 minutes later, it's going to go to 15 again. I mean, this is a crime on the people of New York.
And by the way, the 9 is just for cars. The 9 is for cars. It's for trucks. It's up to $21.
It's a Hochul hoax. That's what it is. You know, they think they're going to lower it now, and then it'll be. First she told us she was going to halt it. It was all for political reasons. It comes back a week after the election. Now it's going to be $9, not $15. And by the way, President Trump, Republicans, we're already slashing prices. This thing went from $15 to $9. We're already saving people money. But the thing is, we want it to be dead. We want it to not go into effect.
How many tolls does Staten Island people pay? 3 tolls: the Verrazano, the tunnel, and then the congestion pricing, right?
Well, yes, if they're using that route, that would be the case. I mean, but the thing is, like, people in New York City, they should not be having to pay a toll to enter another borough in the city in which they live.
I agree. And at a time, we're not even talking about the economy, at a time where we're so bootstrapped.
Well, what happens if you live in Manhattan? You go outside the zone or into the zone.
Yeah, what
You're
a
being penalized there, too. And by the way, Nicole, you're absolutely right. But the other issue is, why don't they just make sure they have fare beating prosecuted and get the money on that.
Yeah, great point.
You would actually get more money on that.
That's
Now,
right.
if
If people paid, you wouldn't have to charge a toll to the legitimate people that are driving around.
Yeah, they just need to enforce that.
Sum it up, it's a hokel hoax, right?
Yeah, good one. Nicole, thank you very much. Great points. Thank you very much. We'll keep everybody posted on this.
Take a break now. What are we coming back with?
And we have the former Attorney General of Pennsylvania, because guess what?
Oh, my God, what's going on in Pennsylvania?
The Democrat is not surrendering.
They had a little election there.
Yeah.
With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows the resourceful individual to earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
O'Reilly. You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Americans are durable. We take pride in hard work and high quality. American Giant makes durable quality clothing right here in the USA because what we wear reflects who we are. When you buy American Giant, you're not just wearing the best clothes money can buy. You're helping keep jobs and pride in your own backyard. Premium clothing built to last decades, like it should. Get 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code RightHere24.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Well, Dave McCormick won the Senate race. It was called all over the place, but yet Bob Casey, the incumbent, the Democrat, is not conceding, and now he's saying, yeah, I want a recount. What the heck is going on in Pennsylvania? Joining us now is the former Attorney General there from the great state of Pennsylvania, Ernie Priate. Ernie, what is this about?
Hi, Rita and John. It's a waste of time of taxpayers' money. It's going to cost $1 million, and the result's not going to change. He's up by 28,000 votes. And the recount is triggered when the percentage between the two of them is under 0.40. It's 0.38. And so the automatic recount happens. But there were 4 recounts in the past in Pennsylvania since the Act of 2004, and every one of them turned out to be having negligible difference than the unofficial count on Election Day. So this is likely to turn out, as the McCormick team has said, to be a win for him and a loss for Casey.
Now, is there any chance that a court reverses it?
Well, the court, the Pennsylvania court has already ruled that you have to have a legal ballot. The question is, what's a legal ballot? An undated ballot, which is what they're fighting about in Bucks County and a couple of other counties, is an undated. In other words, the person signs it. He has to put his signature on it, and he has to date it. If he doesn't date it, it's illegal. And the courts have held that that's an illegal ballot. And so there's that argument to be made in both the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and in the Bucks County Common Pleas Court. But the issue is, what about the recount? Do you know what a recount is? A recount is taking the same ballots, the same papers that were run through the machines, and run them through again. It's not a hand count. It's not somebody looking over for hanging chads and stuff like that. It's the ballots themselves. They've run them through the computer again. I don't know how you come up with an error that's going to erase a 28,000 vote lead when the numbers are generated by the same ballots and the same machines. So that's why I think this is an exercise in futility.
And Ernie, before we let you go, you brought up the fact that it's these undated ballots, that's sort of the, at the crux of it all. Why are they saying they could justify it? I mean, who would ever accept undated ballots? You could have sent them in a year ago.
Well, listen, that's what they did 4 years ago.
Right. The Pennsylvania, Ernie, it's Richard Weinberg. That's what they did last time. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court, on a partisan vote by the Democrats, violated the law.
That's right. That's exactly right. So now it's been held. No, you got to have the ballots as the legislature prescribed. You got to have them perfect. I mean, this is the law, and so the Republican National Committee has filed lawsuits in Bucks County and in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to say enforce the law as the legislature has written it. And if you want to have a recount, fine. The recount's going to proceed. And it has to proceed, by the way, next week. And it starts on Monday, the November 20. It starts at noon on November 26th, and it must end on starts at Wednesday, November 20th, and must be completed by noon on November 26th, and it's going to be announced on November 27th. So they have 6 days to complete the count.
Ernie Priot, former Attorney General of Pennsylvania, thank you for the update. Was there anything else from here?
No, I think we're great. I
think
we're great
so
with Ernie.
And we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.
And Rita, let's go to some more hot news that you have.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, John, the big story, of course, is that President-elect Donald Trump is nominating RFK Jr. to head up the Department of Health and Human Services. Trump has consistently said that RFK Jr. will help make America healthy again, as Ed Cox so eloquently said earlier. And Kennedy has criticized vaccine mandates and processed foods. I have to give you a shout out because Judge Weinberg's been getting a lot of compliments. Also the governor. It was your turn. And also other news, betting platform Polymarket is calling an FBI raid on its CEO's home, quote, obvious political retribution for predicting Donald Trump's. They're a betting platform, and they were the first ones to predict that Donald Trump would win the election. They're a betting group.
What's the basis of the raid? What are they
so
trying to do?
That's what they're saying. They're questioning why the Justice Department. They said they're actually looking into U.S.-based customers making trades if it was some sort of violation. But the CEO is saying, wait a minute, why did you seize my phone and electronic devices? And he thinks it's payback because they were saying that Trump was going to win the election. They were doing it based on their formula, not for any political reason. But, boy, a lot of stuff to talk about. And everybody coming up, we have Miranda Devine, Andy McCarthy, and Trump's lawyer. You saw her in court. Alina Habba is going to be joining us. We got a great show, John.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Everybody talking about these big appointments by President-elect Donald Trump. The latest one, RFK Jr. For Secretary of Health and Human Services. But also everybody's still talking about Matt Gaetz for AG and Pete Hegseth. Fox and Friends Weekend for Defense Secretary. And joining us now is Miranda Devine with the New York Post. Miranda, before we get to Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz, your thoughts on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You and I had dinner with him, I remember, not that long ago, Miranda.
Look, I think it's a fantastic pick, and obviously I think Bobby Kennedy Jr. played a big part in Donald Trump's thumping victory. And honestly, if the Democrats want to know what's gone wrong with their party, they should look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he is a Democrat royalty, and they lost him big time. And that's not because he changed or he's so removed from his father and uncle's politics. It's because the Democratic Party is now unrecognizable from their time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is stunning, the transformation. Also, Tulsi Gabbard there. Remember, she actually switched parties. She's a Republican. Now, let's get to Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, you wrote a column saying good choice. Explain.
Well, look, I think that, for one thing, the Department of Justice does not deserve to be treated with respect. And Donald Trump choosing Matt Gaetz is really a giant middle finger to the Department of Justice, which was weaponized against him. All the lawfare that he suffered, well, not all of it, but a lot of it, came from the Department of Justice at the behest of Joe Biden. Merrick Garland has been a shocking Attorney General, and, Matt Gaetz certainly couldn't be any worse. You saw under Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice was weaponized against not just Donald Trump, but against mums and dads at school board meetings. He sicked the FBI onto them. We had peaceful protesters from January 6th who didn't commit any violence. They were treated like domestic terrorists. You had Christians who were quietly praying at abortion clinics are arrested, dawn raids with the FBI. It is shocking how perverted the course of justice was under the Biden-Harris administration and Merrick Garland as Attorney General. So spare me the complaints about Matt Gaetz being a big King Kong going in there and he's so unsuitable. I don't know if he's going to get through the whole nomination and, through the Senate and so on. I'm not even sure if that's going to work, but it certainly sends a loud and clear message to the DOJ that Donald Trump is declaring war on the deep state.
Yeah, and listen, I agree. I think Merrick Garland really has unbelievably politicized.
To, President Trump. He brought in Sessions originally, and Sessions got sworn in the next morning. Judge Weinberg, what happened the next morning after Sessions got sworn in?
He recused himself, and he had to have a special counsel go in there, and they had all the nonsense of the Russia nonsense. And the point of the matter, though, is I generally agree with Miranda, and I think you're absolutely right about Trump taking a hard line and cleaning up the Department of Justice. I just don't think that Matt Gaetz is the right candidate to do that. And I think it's going to be a political problem, and he's not going to get through.
You're right, Judge, because I think a lot of senators have already still stood up and said, no way.
Yeah, and Governor Patterson, you have a comment, too.
Miranda, you're still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, so I'm going to demur to your complaint. Demur is an old English word that means even if everything you said is true, you haven't stated a cause of action. So what I'm saying to you is...
That's very professional, guys. Wow, you got big words here.
If everything that you said is true, fine. Then don't take anybody that would even remind you of the people who were there with Biden. But why him over the many, many qualified people that the president could have chosen from?
Well, because he really is a threat. He is a MAGA firebrand. He is a King Kong. He is their worst nightmare. Donald Trump could not have chosen someone worse in their eyes, in the eyes of the establishment. He is a monster. He is a nightmare. And that's exactly the message. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't do these things without deliberate reason. And he must want to just say to the Department of Justice, this is a declaration of war. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Pete Hegseth was a small version of that, like a milder version of that, the Department of Secretary of Defense. But Matt Gaetz really is, he's just broken the glass and he's said all bets are off. Now, again, it may be that he's playing a more sophisticated game and that he knows that there's no way that Matt Gaetz gets through the confirmation process, in which case the MAGA base that loves Matt Gaetz is satisfied, and they then direct their ire at the so-called rhino Republicans who will be the ones that will say no to Matt Gaetz.
Miranda, hold on one second. And go real quick, Governor Patterson, super quick.
Well, all I want to say is that I would hope that we would not be talking about monsters and how other people agitate and upset other people when it comes to the law, which
But that's what happened to Trump. I mean, come on.
I already accepted that it was happening to Trump. What I'm saying is, I don't know that this country gets any better because now that someone else has got control of the wheel, that they will persecute people they don't like.
Well, Miranda, super quick, because we've got a couple other guests, but
I
super
don't think
quick.
it's about retribution or persecution. What it is about is accountability, that those people who got away scot-free with the Russia hoax and all the rest of it, they must be held accountable. So otherwise, what happens is this continues on, this corruption at the Department of Justice, which is terrible for every American, continues.
Yeah, you're right. We can't have that politicization.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. Miranda, thank you.
The rule of law must be paramount.
Yeah, and colorblind. It has to be fair to everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's exactly
bottom line,
exactly
Miranda.
what Gates is talking about. It's the rule of law. It's abiding by the Constitution. That's what Trump said in his truth, where he was recommending Gates. That's all it's about.
No, and that's important. I agree. I hear you. And listen, he has a choice to pick who he wants to pick too. Absolutely. And he's an attorney too. He does have a legal background. Miranda, thank you very much. Great to have you, Miranda. Thank you.
Thank you.
And joining us now, we have Andy McCarthy, who has a different opinion about Matt Gaetz. Andy, we just have a few minutes real quick.
Well, I'm just a resident rhino squish, I guess.
All right, so rhino squish, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason that we have a Senate confirmation process is the president can fire anyone he wants, but to hire someone, they have to demonstrate to the Senate that they are fit for the position. And there's about 1 million lawyers who would be lawfully loyal to Trump and do a fine job at the Justice Department that he could pick. And he picked somebody who was utterly unfit for the position.
I'm with Andy. Andy, let me ask you a question, which I don't know the answer to. So there's all this noise about having a recess appointment. So let's go on the hypothetical that they make a recess appointment of Matt Gaetz. How long does that last? It says the Constitution says through the session, which would be the end of the calendar year. Am I correct?
Well, no, it would be, well, if they were able to pull this off, which they won't be able to,
right.
It would be the end of the upcoming session, which would be the one that starts in January.
Right, but that session is a whole year because every Congress has 2 sessions.
Yes, right. So that's exactly right. He would have the position until the end of the year. But the thing is, I don't think the president can force the Senate to go out of session, and they have easy ways of staying in session. So I just don't.
You have one guy standing there in the Senate chamber.
Yeah, right. They do this all the time. But the thing is, we got 53 Republican senators. And they've really lowered the amount of time that the opposition can delay confirmation. So we should be able to assembly line confirm people who are suitable. I'm not saying that every person's got to be the Babe Ruth of the nominees, but all you need to do is be like baseline fine, and you're going to get confirmed.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's got to be 1 million people that fits that bill.
And let me tell you something. With that, you're going to have if they go through a hearing, if they go through a process to try to go through the hearing with him, and that report comes out, and I believe the Senate has a right to that report, notwithstanding so-called confidentiality, because they have to judge the character and fitness of the nominee. They will get that report either directly or by leaks.
Yeah, I think that by doing it the way they've done it, they've made it. Gates has made it such that this report will now get more intensive scrutiny than it might otherwise have gotten.
I agree with that. I agreed.
And you know what? You know what's interesting, Andy? So let me ask you, is there a scenario that because it's this recess appointment, and let's do the acting position. Like I think of the prior AG, Matt Whitaker, who's been here on the show with us. Matt Whitaker was acting AG. Different scenario, obviously. Certainly a guy with a great background and all this other stuff. But is there a scenario where Matt Gaetz could stay? Somehow it comes in. it stays with that one. He could stay as acting AG until they go through this, even if he doesn't, the nomination process, even if he gets shot down in the nomination process down the road a few months later, but he would still be acting AG for X months or X weeks.
Yeah, Rita, it's been a while since I looked at the statute, but my recollection is that you have to be in the executive branch at the time that the vacancy opens. So, for example, Matt Whitaker, I can't remember, was he the U.S. attorney for Iowa, or he's maybe the chief of staff for Sessions, but he was in the Justice Department, so it was no problem to move him in as an acting. I don't think you can take somebody from the outside or from another branch of government and bring them in as an acting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's an interesting point. What do you think, Judge Weinberg? What are your thoughts?
I think the best thing they could do is withdraw this nomination. That's what I think. It's for the good of the Republican Party, good for the American people. Governor, is that the fourth time you're going to agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. Listen.
You know,
if I have Andy McCarthy and Governor Patterson with me, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure one of us will get it, right, Governor?
Yes.
Look, if you put aside all the problems of getting the appointment, the release of report, and all that, you need someone who is really tough to go in there, and the Justice Department deserves to be really cleaned up for what they did with lawfare. It is introducing into our presidential process a new factor that will continue unless there is real punishment on the people in the Department of Justice who actually did it and wanted to do it and jumped on board in doing all the cases that were really came out of the White House and through the Justice Department to whether it was in Georgia or whether it was in New York or whether it was the two Jack Smith cases.
I couldn't agree more that I think what has everybody in the country who's sensible angry is that we've forgotten how to hold people accountable and fire people who abuse their power. No one, for example, got fired after the Afghanistan debacle, which may be the worst thing that happened during the Biden-Harris administration. But You're right. And even in the FBI, where they pushed out a lot of the people who were involved in Russiagate, they did it quietly because they're always worried about embarrassing the Bureau. I think you got to make an example of people when they abuse their power.
No,
Andy,
I agree.
thank you.
No,
very,
one more
very
thing,
much.
just quickly. I mean, we $85 billion worth of equipment we gave out in Afghanistan. Not even one 3-star, not even one 4-star general was held accountable.
Andy, thank you very much. Great, great point. Andy, thank you. What an important conversation. Thank you. And after the break, everybody, Alina Habba, Trump's attorney, coming up right after the break.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Well, she has been there right front row and center in all of the crazy lawfare that has happened against President-elect Donald Trump. And she is now being talked about in so many different ways as parts of maybe the administration. I hope so, because she is awesome. Joining us now is Alina Habba, President Trump's lawyer. Alina, it's so great to have you here on Katz and Cosby. Wonderful to have you here.
So nice to be on with you. I appreciate it.
And Alina, by the way, you got to give your parents my love. Every time I've seen you, Alina, I love seeing you. I love your parents.
Rita, some breaking news. Breaking news.
Uh-oh, what do we have?
Our good friend, American patriot Sergio Gore has just been named the head of presidential personnel.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Wow. Bravo. We love Sergio.
To him. Isn't he the greatest? I mean, it's like the Super Bowl of politics. I'm so into it. I love it. And he's been making epic decisions, one after another. And I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, what do you make of all of these latest ones? The other big one, of course, Alina, we just heard RFK Jr., Health and Human Services Secretary. We were talking about Pete Hegseth. We were talking about Matt Gaetz. What are your thoughts about sort of all these, the real biggies? And there's still a couple openings.
You know what? Honestly, there's not one I have disagreed with or, been questioning. I think he was very transparent about who he was thinking about putting in these roles. And if you were listening, it shouldn't be a surprise. Elon Musk and RFK Jr. and I think there are people that we've seen in the circle. There are people that we know stand for America first, and he's building a cabinet that he's not going to have to be worried about, and people that he knows well. It's going to be very different than 2016, where he was coming in as a businessman and maybe didn't know, who was around in Washington. Now he does. And I think each selection is quite telling. I'm excited to see what happens in January when they get in.
What do you think is going to happen with the Matt Gaetz nomination? Just because there's been so much back and forth. And Alina, my position, and boy, better than probably anybody other than the president. I mean, he really has been the victim of such unbelievable lawfare. All these cases, we still got, all the crazy stuff with Judge Merchan and of course, Jack Smith, yet to resign or be pushed out. But I understand the philosophy of bringing in somebody who's going to say no more of this.
Right. Well, we need somebody with a backbone. We need somebody who's not afraid to speak up. We've had too much politicking in politics. And I think that Matt has, like President Trump, been, smeared, slammed, all of it. And he's ready to stand up and speak and take care of business. And we need a fresh start. He's young. He's energetic. He's done a great job speaking up and not taking any heat when he was given it. You have to have a serious backbone for that job. And I know Matt personally. I know them, frankly, everybody that he's appointed personally. I think each and every one of them has one thing in common, and that's that they are unafraid and that they are ready to work. And I'm excited. I think it'll be okay.
Ed Cox.
So, Alina, with respect to the civil case here in New York, where there's a terrible $148 or $180 million judgment against them, absolutely absurd case. What do you think happens to that case? Because that's different. It's New York law, an egregious law here that has been abused by Erdogan and Judge Merchan. What do you think happens to it?
Well, Judge Engoron was that one. That's the civil lawsuit with Letitia James. That's the trial that I was on. And, the fact that right off the bat, the appellate division just knocked it out of the park and said, what are you talking about, 400-something million? You guys are nuts. And then we did argue that. We're waiting on the appellate division to make a decision. We should get it soon. I have no reason to doubt that they saw through the argument that this was a law that was used inappropriately, that there wasn't a statute of limitations legally that could be used. It was way beyond any statute of limitations. And I've been saying that from the courtroom steps for the last 3.5 years. And honestly, I think it's people like Tish and I think it's people like Bragg that helped get Donald Trump elected. I think they overshot. They got egregious. These witch hunts made the American people see how politics really can affect the everyday person, a businessman who's minding his own business, who's done nothing wrong. And I'm hoping for the best on the appellate division on that. We're waiting. We should have a decision soon.
On all the other case, the Merchan case you talked about, he's got to decide when he pushed it, he punted it a week essentially. And then there's still the sentencing date. I mean, this is, I would like to say it's inconceivable, but not with what I've seen with some of the lawfare there.
Nothing is ever inconceivable under radical left policies. Their desperation has been real, but we've been fighting them everything, tooth and nail. And we've been winning. And, they try and knock anybody in his circle on the team down and make the American people fearful for who he is. And it's just not, they didn't buy it. They said that on November 5th. Look, Merchan, he pushed it off. It was supposed to be Tuesday. I can't understand any reason he would not dismiss this in its entirety, especially the Supreme Court came down and said presidents have immunity. And some of the testimony they had was from when he was president, from the Oval. So that in itself means the trial was flawed, let alone the fact that the trial was completely ridiculous and a sham to begin with.
Judge Weinberg.
Lena, I think you're absolutely correct. The very fact that they put in tainted evidence tainted the whole jury deliberation. Juries weren't capable of sorting it out. The case should absolutely be turned over. It should be gone, period.
I think Merchan wants to get it gone, too, because he's going to be so embarrassed on appeal, even in the state courts.
Yeah, he is. I think they all are. I think Letitia's embarrassed. I think that's why she came out and did her little presser with Hochul the day after. Look, desperation, like I said, makes you do crazy things, but America spoke loudly, and we're at where we're at for a reason. We're turning the page, as Miss Phelps likes to say, and I'm excited about it.
And before we let you go, Alina Habba, you have been just great with the president. Your name has come up in a lot of different positions. I know it came out today that you took your name out of press secretary. I think you would have been great at that. I think you'd be great at anything, Alina.
Thank you.
Do you think you'll be doing something in the administration? I hope so.
I don't know, and I will say this. I'm very protective of President Trump and conversations that I have with him about these things. And with all the speculation with the press secretary thing, as flattering as it was, it became its own story. And I felt that it was right for America to know that wasn't something that I was doing or talking about. And, as polite as you want to be, sometimes you just have to shut things down. And President Trump just has a great team with him working on transition. Howard Lutnick, his kids, Elon Musk, these are people, Vivek. I mean, all these people that are at Mar-a-Lago right now, I trust. And I think he's got great options for press secretary. I think he's got great options for a lot of these roles. But that's, like I've said over and over again, a decision for the president and, frankly, for my family as well. I can say this. I know I fought like hell, and I'm so proud of what I've done. And no matter what I do, it has been the greatest privilege, even if I don't go in or I do. I don't care. I'm honestly so happy to be on the right side of history.
Well, you have been just a stalwart supporter of his. You've done a great job, Alina. We love having you here.
I always will be. He's a great person.
Always. Well, it's so great to have you here, too, Alina. And Alina, got to come back on again soon. It was great to talk with you.
Alina, we always enjoy talking to you.
I know, me too. Thanks, guys. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you, too. Yeah, God bless America. And, guys, what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.